A lot of the things that we talked about were designed around extrapolating what we figured we could do in the next 30 years. I've been really surprised at how close a lot of those things came. Cyberpunk is basically about how the street and everyday people use technology to level the playing field against the powers that be. You know, big corporations, powerful people, the ones on top. Technology is the leveler. Technology allows you to do things that push you on a level with more powerful people. What that means is things that were only accessible to the rich and the powerful are now accessible because of technology to people who are not the 1%. Actually, Cyberpunk has been optioned to do video games since around 86, 87, and continuously. Two problems. One, the technology wasn't there. It took too much to even do it. For example, I worked on a game called Matrix Online, and at the time we were pushing the technology to do the city streets. You know, what's a cyberpunk world going to be like if you can't do crowds and rain streets and vehicles and all that? It wasn't possible. Second reason was, as the technology became more possible, we had to find someone who had the same idea and vision about the world that we had. What they're going to see is the depth of it. And there are subtleties all through that trailer of things in windows, reflections, stuff in newspapers scattered underneath the broken bodies, whatever. Those are things you can't entirely tell in a regular game because they come from the imagination of the game master. So a lot of what people will see, hopefully, is going to be what I would have seen if I was running the game. And they'll now see it as what I originally saw the scene would be like. When I wrote Cyberpunk, we had sections where we talked about Florida being flooded under global warming. And I thought at the time, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. And, we're looking at things like that. It's going to be interesting because problems that I was inventing or looking at or extrapolating are going to be real in-the-face problems in 20 or 30 years. What happens when the AIs that I talk about in there and that can run things are running things? How do we design them to look after our interests, not their own interests? How do we find meaningful work for people instead of having them live in cubes and eating kibble, little human chow? These are things we have to deal with or we get our cyberpunk future. And I'm hoping that we all get smart enough to avoid that as well instead of thinking that it couldn't happen, because it can. So fight for your future if you're going to have one.